Hello, everybody. My name is Ana Rezende, and in this podcast, I will share my transformational journey to become a health coach. In each episode, I will address a different subject that impacts our health, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Because I've learned that being healthy means being in balance. If you would like to make amazing discoveries, improve your health, get inspired, and yet find sustainable ways to live and help the planet, tune in. You are in the right place. I'm your host, Ana Rezende, and Good is What Makes You Feel Well is Mama Terra's podcast.
Toma banho de cachoeira, abraça uma pessoa amiga, corre na chuva, escala a montanha, contempla a vista, transcende, levita.
In today's episode, I am talking to ATHENA Teal, a manifestor, seeker, teacher, and coach. For years, ATHENA felt stuck, discontent with a life lived on everyone else's terms. When she finally found out that alignment was the one thing missing, then her life began to shift. The realization of a higher consciousness beyond the ego and the willingness to bring her gifts to the world made her feel joyful, connected, purposeful, peaceful, and abundant. Now that she has experienced the power and the pleasure of abundance and alignment in her own life, her mission is to share that with other women. With her Abundance with ATHENA membership, she offers guidance and a supportive community to women seeking purpose and truth. ATHENA believes that by feeling abundant and inviting everyone around us to discover their alignment and abundance, we gather the power to change the world for the better. In our conversation, she shares her main self-care practices and mindfulness tools to keep a flow of abundance in her life. Please welcome ATHENA Teal. Hello, ATHENA.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here.
Welcome to Good is What Makes You Feel Well.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, for us to start our conversation, I would like to ask you what, in this moment of your life, makes you feel well?
In this very present moment, being in community with you is what makes me very well. Sharing ideas and just sharing this space with you. I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, that means a lot to me. So tell me how being well evolved throughout your life.
Oh, I think wellness in general changes over time. And for me, the definition almost changes, right? Because when I was younger, wellness really was about eating right and exercising. And when we're younger, we tend to have healthier bodies, right? So it doesn't feel like it takes that much effort to be well, right? And since then, it's just expanded into different levels of depth. And so now it's not just about eating right and exercising, while those are obviously still very important, right? But it's more about my life feeling well, all of my life, right? Every aspect of it. And that doesn't mean that it's perfect, for sure, but it means that in every aspect of my life, I can feel and find some sort of wellness, meaning relationships, right? Community, the job that I have, just waking up in the morning and looking forward to the day. And that is really more of the encompassing wellness that I think that I allow in and I define for my everyday life.
I love that. I love that. I really resonate because what I think for me is important now is my everyday routine.
Mm-hmm.
It is cool to go away to travel places to get to know different people, but if you don't have a good place to come back, it doesn't matter because we are going to be most of the time with us in our place, right? So that 1 week or 2 weeks vacation can be awesome, but we have to have a good place to come back to, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. Integrating it into our every single day, right? That we're not just focusing on relaxation and calm and peace when we're on vacation, but that we have moments of that we are integrating that we're cultivating that for ourselves every single day. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have a everyday routine or a wellness routine that you
Yes,
techniques and things that you do every day?
I do. And that changes too, obviously, because I think that's the other part of this, right? Sometimes we get into feeling like we have to define in certain actions what our wellness is every single day, right? And then it can become regimented, and then it can become like as if we're doing it or as if it's hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, every day when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do, honestly, is just say, do I want to get up right now? Like, does it feel in my body that I want to get up? And if the answer is no, then I allow myself to sleep a little bit more. And I can do that because usually I set my alarm for like 5 a.m. And so I have plenty of time before my actual rest of the day starts to come that I can give myself a little bit of sleep if necessary, right? And also not beat myself up because I am not getting right up at 5 a.m., right? That I'm actually listening to my body from the moment that I wake up and say, hey, is this it? Are we waking up today at this time or not? It's as easy and simple as that, as like checking in with your body and asking, okay, is it this time? Are we ready to move? Are we ready to get energized into the day? So for me, that's the number one first thing. And then when I do get up, I have some coffee and I read. And I love personal development books. Right now, I'm reading a book by Tara Mohr called Playing Big, and it's absolutely wonderful. I recommend it to anyone and everyone. And from there, I usually have a meditation that's about 10 to 20 minutes long. And I make myself a wholesome breakfast and a hearty breakfast, which is usually eggs, vegetables in the eggs, scrambled eggs. And I'm a vegetarian, so I have a little Beyond Meat veggie patty with it. And then I sit down and I have an appreciation practice where I have on a sheet of paper 6 areas in life where I am appreciating. And I pick one area every single day. So that way I'm essentially getting through them each week, right? And then and kind of a bonus day where I can just do whatever I want. And then from that space of appreciation, I go into a manifestation practice. And that practice really looks like if there is something that I'm wanting to call into my life, I write it from that space of appreciation. And that could be as simple as I am wanting clarity and knowingness of what my next home is going to look like or feel like, right? And so, and it's really, really cool how manifestation and being in the feelings of appreciation are connected because A, appreciation is the best energy that you can manifest from. But B, when we're appreciating the things that we're already having, right? That we already have, that we're already loving in our lives, that we've already manifested into our lives, we take those feelings that we're feeling about what we've already manifested, and then we project it onto the future manifestation of what we want. So it's easy because we are just practicing a more in-depth appreciation of the feelings that we already feel for us to bring in our manifestations. So that's what I do every morning.
That is so awesome. So you have the 6 different areas of your life, like relationships,
Yeah,
career, family, and is that what you do?
exactly. It's like it's home, service, creativity, relationships, finances, and like I think it's spirituality is the 6th one. But yeah, exactly.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So then you read every day.
Mhm.
Do you read for a certain amount of time or just as long as you feel?
Yeah, for me, the time is not as much of a thing. I like to try to get through 10 pages a day of whatever book it is. And if I want to read more than that, then I can. But I like to read at least 10 pages. So that way I'm making some sort of, stride through the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
progress. Love it. So tell me about this manifestation practice that you do. Did you learn it from somebody else or do you read about it in a book or tell
Yeah.
me?
So for me, in teaching abundance and manifestation, I started off in coaching in general. And as you know, as a business owner, there are a lot of pivots and playing and experimentation. And it's all a journey and a process. And when you're open to that, it feels a lot easier, right? As opposed to being like, oh gosh, this thing didn't work anymore, or this didn't work, and taking the redirections as failures as opposed to just exactly what that is, a redirection, right? And so when I started off first, I wasn't actually teaching and coaching abundance. I was teaching and coaching military spouses how to live overseas, live abroad, because that was my life at the moment. And so I had gotten into coaching and personal development, and I loved books like Jen Sincero's You Are a Badass and Gina DeVee, The Audacity to Be Queen, and all of that. And I just got more deeply into the spirituality aspects of our life and creating our own reality and manifestation over basically the last 2 years or so. And it really kind of pivoted into abundance and manifestation. And so I love collecting all of these different ideas and all of the different ways that people have come to creating their own life, right? And taking different practices that I've learned and incorporating them and seeing how they work for me. And so the way that I do it now in the morning with the appreciation and the manifestation is very much a culmination, honestly, of all of those things and really trying and seeing which thing works for me. And at the same time, knowing that it's not just about the practice that helps you manifest, right? It's a consciousness behind it, right? And evolution and expanding of consciousness. Because before I was even a coach, I didn't have any of this, in my consciousness. Manifestation was something that was happening maybe on the West Coast, and I lived on the East Coast, and that was kind of flowy and flowery, right? But that was my consciousness at the time.
Mhm.
And so it's really a culmination of all those things and finding what feels good to me and knowing that just like the process was what it needed to be to bring me to this consciousness now, that as I evolve and deepen into what abundance means and what manifestation is for me, that it'll continue to change, right?
Yeah, so I love that you give yourself the grace to acknowledge the right time
Mm,
because it's always divine time, right?
yes.
So you didn't have that level of consciousness before, but the right time came and now you have it, you acknowledge it. I
Mm-hmm.
love the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes that is just what we need. We just need to acknowledge that the time will come or hasn't come yet for the things that we want to happen, to manifest.
Exactly.
And
right.
I love the idea. So Emily Fletcher talks about this all the time, and I love her, that the energy of feeling good, that is the energy to manifest. I like that you use that, the appreciation energy that you were feeling, because that is the same energy, the energy of feeling good. So everything feels good. And that is the energy to manifest even more, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
And I feel like it's almost a catalyst, meaning like when you're in that good feeling space and you're appreciating, it's almost as if you can see the possibilities, right? More possibilities for yourself because you're in the receiving mode. You're in the allowing of life to kind of unfold and dazzle you, right? And so things that you thought were not possible feel more possible when you're in the energy of appreciation. Just like if you're thinking about, something that you want to manifest in the future, but you woke up and you're having a really bad day, right? Like your faith in or your believability in that manifestation occurring when you're in a bad mood is probably not the right energy, right? Because we're not even in that mental headspace, honestly, to even think about having the manifestations. But when we are in a mode of appreciation and the mood of appreciation and feeling the feelings of all of that, the joy that you were talking about, that Amy Fletcher talks about, that is the moment and that is the feeling state that allows us to move into knowing that the manifestation is coming and that it's going to be here, right? That we can really believe it because our mind and our hearts are open as opposed to closed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you talked about meditation. Did you learn it from somebody, or do you have a specific practice that you do, or you just sit still and observe your thoughts?
Yeah. This is something like a lot of different practices or a lot of different things that we're doing over time, whether it's eating healthy or exercising. This is not something that we necessarily do once and then stop, right? So for me, variety is incredibly important because if I am not doing it a little bit differently each time, then I'm going to get bored and then I'm probably not going to do it as often because I'm not excited about it, right? And so for me, I didn't necessarily have any one specific teacher. I listened to a lot of different people and decided what I liked and then practiced it. And that has evolved and changed over time as well. Right now, for kind of quick little tune-ups during the day, I really love the Calm app because it has those like 10 minutes meditation. So they're super easy to just bring myself into a centered place, listen to, and then kind of recalibrate to a different energy, right? But morning meditations tend to be a little bit longer than that, like 15 to 20 minutes. And a lot of the time for me, they are guided meditations. So somebody kind of talking and guiding me through it, and usually a little bit of music in the background. But again, it just depends on the day and what I'm drawn to. But meditation teachers specifically, I love Jon Kabat-Zinn and anything that he writes, books, and or he's been on multiple podcasts, and I think he even has one of his own. But I really love him. He's a beautiful meditation and presence teacher. So that's more recently someone that I've been really concentrating on and following for the meditation. Yeah.
Very cool. So tell me your story about the military. So you said you started coaching military spouses, and how was that?
Yeah, it was it was beautiful. Every life experience is beautiful. And it was also something that was going to change. Obviously, I didn't know that at the time, but Now I can see the evolution of it, right? As we look back on things, we can normally do that. So it was a really great stepping stone. It was a really great first ideal client to work with. However, as my life unfolded and evolved, I wanted to go in kind of a different direction. And I realized that that was no longer my ideal client, which is totally fine. And so I was moving more into, again, the spiritual aspect and manifestation. And while there are some beautiful spouses and soldiers that are into that kind of thing, the military in general is a very masculine space to be in. And so I found myself wanting to go more into the feminine, and I was working kind of with the masculine clients, right? And so that was just one of those shifts that an awareness came that this is what I wanted to do more of, be more in the energy of for myself. And thus I wanted to work with clients who are more open to that possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, more in the feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is so interesting. I think I myself started to leave my feminine energy just the last couple years as well.
In what ways?
Well, I had a big career change, and I was working in a male dominant field for almost 30 years. It was great, like you said. All life experiences are great. I think I learned a lot. But looking back, I can reflect on how much I was missing of my feminine side that I couldn't express or, experience that energy very often. So, yeah, I feel the difference in my creativity. I feel the difference in my intuition. Yeah, I think I'm in the feminine mode of creating and being. It's just a different energy, right?
Yeah. Does it feel more aligned?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when you 2 years ago or so, did you feel like it was a pendulum swing, or did it take some time to kind of move out of the masculine energy and more into the feminine energy?
Yeah, it was a gradual movement. It was not all of a sudden. I think I'm still working my way to find that balance. Sometimes I think I go back and forth,
Yeah.
way too much to one side, and sometimes I still go back to the masculine. This is something that is really strong on my personality. It has always been. So I am trying to find my balance, if I could say that. Yeah. Because we will always have both energies inside us, right? So we just need to know how to navigate both. Yeah. I'm also working on my receiving. You said something about receiving, and it reminded me how much I still need to work on receiving. And that is part of being in the masculine energy for so long as well, as I recognize now, but very, very new for me. Yeah. But I'm doing much better. So
good. Yeah. Are there examples of when you are now receiving that you would not have thought to receive previously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it's so funny to say that, because when my daughter was dating last year, the first time that she went on a date with her new boyfriend, I told her, take this money with you. He pays his share and you pay your share. And that was my way of thinking. We split everything. And that's how it works. So for most of my life, that is the way I operated. And then now I realize that if he wants to pay, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I was kind of pushing her to not let him, you
Mm.
know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and that is how I did it with myself. Every time somebody was for, oh, I'll bring you a coffee. No, 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 I got it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So those little things, nothing major, but restricting this flow. So
Mm.
now that I am aware of this flow in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowing myself to receive the compliments, to receive the gestures, to receive the help, to receive.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on it. Yeah, it was a big, it is still a learning curve, but I am open now
Yeah.
to see what's going to
Yeah.
happen.
And I feel like that is something that many women, especially, struggle with, is receiving, because even as, young women and children, right, we're taught usually that we're the overgivers. And so, not only in the masculine sense that, like, we don't want, anyone to do anything for us because we'll look weak, but even in the feminine role as mothers and as caretakers, we're often overgiving, right? And that's just the way that we were taught to be as women. And so it's almost like we have it coming at us from all angles. So it makes complete sense that we are not as comfortable at receiving. And at the same time, when we learn to do that, we help everyone else do the same, right? Like when we give it to ourselves, we are the example of it. And then others feel that they can and are free to also receive. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we create this flow of
Mm,
abundance, right?
yes,
And that
exactly.
is how it is supposed to be.
Yes,
The energy
exactly.
needs to flow, and so the abundance. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. So, did you have a like pivotal moment for you in your life, or you just walked into this coaching career right away after high school, college, or?
Yeah. So, I look at life as mm, different things that happen to us kind of awaken us into different levels of consciousness as we move through life. And so for me, I grew up and I was taught and conditioned and programmed by my family and society that I would essentially go to school and I would, get married and I would have children and I would get a job. And it didn't really matter if I liked the job or not, but money would be coming in. And then that would be a good life. And so I, started out after high school trying to check off the boxes. I went to college. I came out of college. I got a job, and it was just a regular job that I did not care very much for. And I started dating, right? And so I was trying to figure all this out. And, I'm in a young adulthood at the time. And it really wasn't working. I really didn't feel fulfilled or meaningful or purposeful. And so I thought, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll move to a different state. Maybe a different state will have what fills that hole for me that feels like something is missing, that there must be more to life. And I moved, and then I thought, okay, if I could just get a job in higher education, I think I would really like that. So that'll be the new thing. That's what I'll do. And at the same time, I'll keep dating and see if I, find somebody, right? And so I'm going through all of this, and I finally do actually get a job in higher education, and for the most part, I'm enjoying that. And at the same time, I meet my husband, and he's in the military, and so we got married. And then our first big move, and my first big move, because when I say I moved states, it was from Virginia to North Carolina, so it was super easy, right? Very small move. And we had orders to go to Washington State. So,
Mm.
completely across the country. And that moment was a moment of, wow, so much is going to change. Like, it's not going to be easy for me to see my family and friends here on the East Coast anymore. So that's changing. So community in general, my job is going to change because obviously I'm going to find something there. The weather is going to change completely, right? And so I had a moment of, well, if everything is changing, maybe I could, instead of just doing what I've always done to find a job, maybe I could actually find a job that I really wanted to do. And then the question came, oh, well, what is it that I actually really want to do? Like, my conditioning, my programming was you just get a job. So this
It doesn't
idea,
matter. Yeah.
exactly, this idea that I could have a job that I really enjoy and make money was just kind of like, oh. But I feel like I needed that big pattern interrupt in my life of moving different, locations to really spark that, hey, there's more to life. And, here's the question. This is the time, Athena, like actually figure out what you want to do. And so that was my first awakening into, I can actually have a job that I really want to have. And that has been the beginning of the journey to where I am now with manifesting everything that I want in my life, because now I fully believe that I can be, do, or have anything that I truly desire. But that move was the impetus for the rest of this, because if I hadn't had that question of, what do you actually want to do job wise? That's the one question that opened me up to the rest of it. Because once I said, I can actually get a job that makes me feel purposeful and meaningful, I can. Then the rest of it was like, well, if you can have that, why can't you have that? Or why can't you have that? And I was like, oh my gosh. And of course that
I
took a
can
long
have
time.
everything.
It still took, exactly. It was the moment, it was that first awakening of, there is actually more to life than this, Athena. And like, you are worthy. And it was almost like, again, I needed to have the way that life was completely interrupted for me to have that moment. And that, I believe, is really what we call an awakening period. And that was my first one.
Absolutely.
So,
And tell me, how was the process for you to actually find what you wanted to do? Because that is another big one, right?
Yes. Yeah. So again, I was at the point where it was like, well, oh, wow, I don't know. I have no idea. And so I took, the strengths-based test and other skills, knowledge, abilities tests and things like that. Like, what would I be good at? What are the different options? I also took a LinkedIn learning course that asked me to go a little bit deeper, not just from the, cognitive skills, knowledge, and abilities, but asking really, what is your passion? And so I remember filling out this page that I had printed off from this course on LinkedIn, and I was writing, and then coaching came up, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. And I started to cry. And then like it felt so good. And immediately the next thought was, oh my gosh, if I want to do coaching, in my mind, I'm associating coaching with being a hippie. I was like, oh my gosh, is this even a real job? Because again, East Coast, and, I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, so super masculine, surrounded by the Navy, you know, this is not a real job, right? Quote unquote. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what is my Army husband going to feel about me wanting to be a coach, right? I was very nervous and very scared. But that was the answer. And it was staring me straight in the face, and I couldn't deny it. And so I went and I told him, and thank goodness he is from Washington State, so like the West Coast. And so for him, this was not as big of a deal. And so I was so grateful for that we were more on the same page of that than I had realized. And that's where it started. It was just a knowingness that needed to have a moment to come up and say, this is it. And
That
you
is
know
so
it.
cool. That
Yeah,
is
thank
so
you.
cool. Hey, tell me, where in Washington State did you guys live?
Yeah, so we were in the Seattle area. Yeah,
I've
and so
lived
we
there
were,
for 3 years.
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, not in Seattle area. 2 hours north of Seattle,
Okay.
Ferndale. It
Okay.
was 15 minutes from the border. So
Nice.
yeah, I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state
Oh,
with
it
so
is.
many lovely parks, national parks, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you moved back?
So we were there for a year and then we moved to Monterey, California, and that's where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is a big different move from there to sunny California.
You know, it was really interesting because when we moved, that winter was the most rainy winter for a really, really long time. And California was in a drought state before that. And after, I mean, it was probably October through, I don't know, April that it just rained, rained, and rained. California actually got out of the drought. It's back into a drought state now, but it wasn't that big of a deal because we had just come from Seattle, right? So all these people in California were complaining, and I
And
was
you
just kind
guys
of like,
were, "Oh, okay."
it's okay. Yeah, there's not much difference.
Even there is always some magic. That is what it's so wonderful. Yeah, there is always some magic happening.
Yeah,
And how do you like it there in California?
I love it. California is, especially Monterey, is such a lovely place. You know, there's an abundance of wildlife, you know, from deer to, you know, different types of birds and marine life. And the different seasons bring different marine life. And so it's so much fun to watch, even though Monterey itself stays pretty much like within 10 to 15 degrees. So it doesn't actually have seasons here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's fun to watch nature kind of change, right? And so migration of different whales and dolphins and things like that. And, you know, when they're birthing their pups as opposed to just
Oh,
in here and, you know, gorging on food. So it's really cool place. And not just that, but then there's like this area, Castroville, which is not very far away, is like the salad bowl. Selena's is the salad bowl of America, right? And so
hmm.
we have a lot of farming within like 10 to 15 minutes of driving from the coast. And then there are the mountains. And then, you know, I mean, it is so cool to see all the little variations in topography and the different communities that are, you know, planted all around this area within a 30-minute radius.
Hmm.
It's an abundance of everything here. Yeah.
That is so cool. So you said there are lots of farms. So do you
Mhm.
get to have like fresh produce and everything?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different farmers markets and things like that. And so it feels a lot more attainable to eat healthier here. Yes,
And you
absolutely. No
said,
food deserts.
yeah, and you said this is something that you grew up with, like eating well and exercising. So that is kind of in your DNA already.
Yeah, for the most part, I've definitely been aware of wellness from a young age because for me, if I don't move my body, it's very easy for me to gain weight. And so it's something that has always been in the forefront of my mind of wanting to be healthy. And so absolutely. So it definitely is helpful to live in a community where access to food is and really good nutritious food is
Mm-hmm.
available. Absolutely.
Awesome. So tell me about the work you do now.
So yeah, so now I work mainly with women entrepreneurs and we get them unstuck in their businesses by connecting to their higher consciousness, right? Because everything we do in our business usually is new and thus the unknown. And so that can really be uncomfortable, especially for coaches and creatives and artists, right? Because part of that is selling themselves, right? And that's not really at the heart of what we do. What we do is we help people and we create, right? We're not big sellers of ourselves. And the thing is when we move into what we need to do to sell, we tend to look outside of ourselves, right? And for everything else, we're pretty good at tapping into our intuition or that creative flow in what we're offering, like what our services are. And so that's pretty easy for us to be tapped into our higher consciousness. But when it comes to selling ourselves, we tend to look outside of ourselves for the answers, right? And we tend to hope and grasp for anything that seems to work for other people, when in actuality, the key really is to go back inside again and say, how do I want to sell? How do I want to show up for myself in this business? And when you move and you do that in an aligned way with your higher consciousness, knowing that it's all part of the process, that's when it doesn't feel so scary and it doesn't feel like you're putting yourself out there in a negative or, cringy, selly way, and that you're just being yourself. And so that's how you get unstuck, right? Because you shift your perception on it. You shift the energy around it. It becomes more authentic and more aligned with who you are. And that tends to be the thing that's holding a lot of women entrepreneur, creatives, coaches, etc., back. Yeah.
Very interesting. And it's so true. I feel the same way. I could be your client. I feel that the most difficult part is to find the way to sell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the appreciation and the manifestation, in the sense that when we are in that mode of appreciation, when we're tapped into the feelings of connectedness, and we're easily able to project them onto the future, right? Because we hear a lot that manifestation is about feeling into the manifestations before they're here, right? So just like we can use what we already have manifested to help us manifest what we want to manifest, it's very similar to taking the feelings that we feel when we're in flow and we're creating, and then projecting them onto the way that we want to sell, right? Having those same emotions and feelings and energy, and just doing it in selling. And I know that sounds probably more simple than what our egos likes to tell us, right? But the thing is that it is all the same. Like, it's all the same energy. It's just us and our perception of selling that we have to shift in order for it to become the full oneness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does take some time, right?
It takes time. Yeah.
Yes. It does take some work, and it does take some awareness of what are the thoughts that are making it feel icky or sticky or, uncomfortable, and how can we shift them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, finding the ways to reframe. Sometimes we do have those limiting beliefs that we don't realize, and they might be blocking some of the flow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, awareness, always, right?
Mm-hmm.
For us to wrap up, would you like to tell people how they can find you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure. Thank you. So Instagram is the best way to engage, and I'm at Abundance with Athena. And then if you want, there's some free meditations that I have, and you can find those at abundancewithathena.com/free meditations. And I have a membership where we essentially have a masterclass on Monday, and we talk about an alignment practice, which again is aligning to your higher consciousness whenever you're feeling that you are needing a different energy when you're moving into the selling or in general, right? Creating more of that joy that we were talking about earlier. That's on Monday. And then we have a community call on Thursdays where we talk about how did the alignment practice go for you during the week. And so that you can find more information on that membership at abundancewithathena.com/membership.
Okay, so we'll have all that in the show notes. And you also have a podcast, don't you?
I do. It's Abundance with Athena.
Okay, and you
It's
are
repetitive.
Yeah, that's easy. That's good. That's very good.
Good.
So, do you want to talk more about the podcast?
Sure. So the podcast itself is a continued love creation in that it really is two parts. One is kind of watching me as I progress through my own process and listening to various voice notes and kind of following me in my expansion. Because for me, I love to connect ideas and I love to connect people and I love to be more of the guide by your side and not your sage on the stage. I think what is human is universal. And so oftentimes when we're listening to other people process things, right, we can hear it and then it helps us process it. So it's part that, and then it's part interviews of different thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and, you know, just getting at the heart of what abundance means to them. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So we'll have all that on the notes so people can find you. Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Thank you, Anna. I greatly appreciate you and creating this space for wellness.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for listening. It means a lot to me that you chose to be here. To help Mama Terra's mission of making the world a disease-free place for generations to come, you can follow the show, write a review, or talk to your friends about it. You can also subscribe to my newsletter. Every week, I craft good health and wellness tips, recipes, and book recommendations with love and care, just for you. My intention is to give you information and resources to help you make good choices and feel well. Find the link to subscribe in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you again for being here. We have lots of new episodes coming up, so stay tuned. And remember, good is what makes you feel well.
Toma banho de cachoeira, abraça uma pessoa amiga.